This story comes from a Reddit user who went on a solo camping trip deep in the forests of Oregon. They say, I had taken the week off work to disconnect. No phones, no internet. Just me, a backpack, and the stillness of the woods. I found a primitive site in a clearing a few miles off the main trail. There was one other group, a couple, at another site nearby, and a solo man about 150 feet from mine. We waved briefly in the afternoon, but didn't speak. That night I cooked some food over a fire, read a little, and climbed into my tent around 10. The forest was quiet, a little too quiet. I woke up to the sound of soft footsteps, pine needles crunching just outside my tent. I froze. Then came the zipper, not mine, his, the solo guy. He had unzipped his tent and was now outside. I waited, listening, no light, no talking, just slow, deliberate steps, approaching my tent. I held my breath. I didn't move a muscle. My flashlight was in my bag, and I didn't want to make a sound. Then I saw the shadow. He was standing directly next to my tent, on the side where my head was, just standing, not saying a word, not moving. I heard the softest breathing, slow and raspy. He was close enough I could smell his body, a sour, sweaty musk. I waited like that for nearly 10 minutes. It felt like an eternity. Then slowly, he walked away. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. At first light, I packed everything up as quietly as I could. As I passed by his tent, I noticed it was zipped up, but no sign of him inside. It looked untouched. I don't know if he followed me. I drove straight to a ranger station, reported the whole thing. They said no one was registered at that site under his description. No car, no plates, no ID. Sometimes I wonder, was he ever really camping there at all? Or was he just waiting for someone to be alone out in the woods? This story comes from a Reddit user who was camping alone in a remote forest area. They say, I had set up camp deep in the woods, far from any trails or other campers. The first night was uneventful, filled with the usual sounds of the forest. But on the second night, a dense fog rolled in, muffling the sounds and creating an eerie silence. As I lay in my tent, I began to hear faint footsteps circling around. At first I thought it was an animal, but the steps were too deliberate, too human. I called out, but there was no response. The footsteps stopped, and I assumed whatever it was had left. Suddenly I felt a presence right outside my tent. I could see the shadow of someone standing there, unmoving. I grabbed my flashlight and shone it through the tent wall, but the figure was gone. I stepped outside, but the fog was so thick I could barely see a few feet ahead. I decided to pack up and leave immediately. As I hiked back, I kept hearing those footsteps behind me, always just out of sight. I never saw anyone, but the feeling of being watched never left me until I reached my car. I still don't know who or what was out there with me, but I haven't gone camping alone since. This story comes from a Reddit user who was building a shelter in the woods with their cousin. They say, we were deep in the forest, constructing a makeshift shelter. As we worked, we heard unsettling noises, like an axe striking a tree and water splashing. Initially, we dismissed them, attributing the sounds to the nearby creek. Suddenly, I heard a human-like voice calling, as if summoning a dog. Alarmed, I looked up, but saw nothing. I instructed my younger cousin to keep an eye on the area while I hastily packed our belongings. We decided to leave immediately, with my cousin leading the way. As we departed, I glanced back and was horrified to see a masked man, dressed entirely in black, standing about 20 feet away, watching us. I chose not to alert my cousin to avoid panic and urged him to hurry. Approximately 30 minutes later, nearing the edge of the forest and within sight of our house, I noticed the same masked figure darting between trees, seemingly following us. Again, I refrained from alarming my cousin. Once safely inside our home, my cousin turned to me and said he had seen the same masked man trailing us. The realization that we were both being stalked in the woods by an unknown individual still chills me to this day.